The first snow of the year turned the campus into a landscape of white silence. Jade navigated the pathways with a rigid, practiced pace, eyes fixed firmly on the pavement. She preferred the predictability of her own solitude. Across the quad, the atmosphere was a sharp contrast. Liwan stumbled over a patch of ice, arms flailing, while Jake caught him by the shoulder, laughing. The collision happened near the library entrance. Jade rounded the corner, her arms laden with heavy textbooks. She slammed into Jake, sending the volume skidding across the frozen ground. She knelt immediately, her movements sharp and efficient as she reached for the scattered pages. Jake dropped to his knees as well, gathering the books with a steady hand. He handed her the final volume and looked directly at her. "Are you okay?" he asked. Jade nodded, avoiding his gaze, and turned to leave. "You are in the volunteer program, right?" he called out. She paused, her hand gripping the door handle. "Yes, I have seen you helping people," Jake said with a genuine smile. "It is really cool." Jade blinked, surprised. Most people looked through her, not at her. The library aisles became a familiar hunting ground for Jake. He appeared between the stacks, leaning against a shelf with a grin that made the quiet space feel suddenly crowded. He showed up at the corner cafe while she was reading, and lingered near the volunteer center just as she finished her shift. One afternoon, Jade finally stopped, closing her book with a sharp snap. "Coincidence?" she asked, her voice tight. Jake shifted his weight, his eyes bright. "Maybe fate." She rolled her eyes, but the movement lacked its usual bite. She did not walk away. The change was subtle, but it did not escape notice. Canny and Jolia tracked her movements over coffee, watching the way Jade lingered over her cup instead of rushing back to her solitary routine. "You have been smiling more," Canny noted, leaning in. Jade looked down, tracing the rim of her mug. One evening, Jake gathered his friends in an empty practice room. He paced the floor, hands shoved deep into his pockets, his breathing shallow. "I am auditioning," he announced, his voice tight. Evan and Liwan cheered, but Jake did not stop moving. He turned, his face pale under the harsh fluorescent lights. "I have not signed up yet," he admitted. "What if I am not good enough?" The room went silent. The boy who was always the light of the space was visibly trembling. The next day, Jade found him sitting alone on a bench, staring at the gray sky. "You are quiet today," she said, sitting beside him. He did not look up. "Taking a break." She studied his profile, recognizing the same jagged fear she carried daily. "If you do not try, you will regret it more," she said firmly. Jake turned to her, his gaze searching. "You trust me that much?" "I do not," she replied, "but I believe in effort, and you have that." They sat in the biting wind, the distance between them closing. The venue loomed ahead, a dark structure against the blinding white of the campus. Jake stood near the entrance, his face drained of color, his hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. He looked like a man waiting for a sentence. When he saw Jade approaching, his shoulders dropped, his entire frame shifting from rigid tension to a quiet, focused stillness. "You came," he said, his voice barely cutting through the wind. "You asked," she replied. She stopped a few feet away, her breath hitching in the frigid air. Jake took a steadying breath, stepped forward, and closed the gap. "I like you, Jade." The world seemed to stop. The sound of the wind faded into a dull roar. "You should not," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I do not know how to stay. Loving me always turns into something you regret." Jake reached out, his fingers brushing the fabric of her sleeve, a light, desperate touch. Jade felt the first tear track through the cold air, carving a hot path down her cheek. "I cannot give you more," she said, her voice breaking. The day of his departure arrived with the same heavy, falling snow that had marked their first meeting. They stood at the campus gate, the world reduced to the sound of wind against metal. "If I stay longer, I will not be able to go," Jake said, his voice thick. Jade looked at the ground, her heart hammering against her ribs. "I thought I would be stronger than this." Jake stepped closer, his hand hovering near hers. "Come with me." She took a step back, shaking her head. "I cannot." "Then wait for me," he pleaded. "I do not know how to wait for something that might not come back the same," she replied. Jake let out a shaky breath, turned, and began to walk. She watched his figure shrink against the white horizon. She did not call his name. She did not run. She stood still, letting the snow cover his retreating footsteps, knowing that some people are meant to change your life, but not meant to stay in it.